want to thank everyone for coming out today. I'm Sri. I'm a renting artist here at McGuffey Art Center, and we're just so excited to be able to share this virtual poetry reading with you all through McGuffey Art Center. For those of you who do not know, McGuffey Art Center is one of the oldest artist-run cooperatives in the country and is located in a historic elementary school building in downtown Charlottesville. The Art Center is a community of artists dedicated to practicing art and passing on the creative spirit to the greater Charlottesville community. Before we get started, I'm going to run through a few Zoom etiquette tips. Please be mindful to keep yourself muted for the duration of this talk. The mute button is on the bottom center of the screen. This session is being recorded and it will be available for viewing after the talk today. It's going to be on McGuffey Art Center's website as well as our YouTube channel. That being said, if you don't want your face to be recorded, you can turn off your video using the button on the bottom left-hand side of the screen. If you have any questions or comments that you want to share, either to interact with folks who are here today or to ask questions to Adrienne during our Q&A session, you can use the chat function to type in your questions. And the chat function is located in the bottom center of your screen. I will be keeping an eye on the chat box as well as Kori, our other moderator, and we'll bring up any relevant questions for you guys later on. We are so happy to have you all here for today's prose and poetry reading and discussion with Adrienne Oliver as part of the show currently hanging at McGuffey Art Center entitled Water, the Agony and Ecstasy of the Black Experience. This afternoon, we have the special treat of getting to hear Adrienne perform readings from some recent work, as well as to share with you her submission from the Water exhibition. Curated by the Charlottesville Black Arts Collective, Water, the Agony and Ecstasy of the Black Experience is a multi-medium exhibition featuring the work of 25 Black artists from the state of Virginia. This exhibition seeks to take viewers through a journey using water as a metaphor for the Black experience. Artists featured in this exhibition were asked to deliver work exploring the interconnection of water and Black life, based on prose written by writer and photographer Kori Price, who we will also meet later on during this event. The exhibition is currently on display on all floors of McGuffey Art Center until the end of March 2021. Guests can visit the exhibition in person, Wednesday through Sunday, 1 to 5 p.m., and they can also view the exhibition online. I'm going to mention a few upcoming virtual events that we have. Our next upcoming event is on Saturday, March 27th from 4 to 5 p.m. It is a virtual short film screening and director Q&A with Ellis Finney. Ellis Finney is a filmmaker who is a student at JMU currently, and he'll be sharing with us 2 short films submitted for the Water exhibition. Following the 2 films, Finney's going to share a little bit about his creative process, as well as share some of the themes or concepts that he likes to explore in his work. And this segment will be moderated through a Q&A with artist and curator Derek J. Waller. And then on April 4th, from 2 to 3 p.m., we have another virtual poetry reading with Larry D. Giles. Larry will be reading excerpts from his first self-published work, Father Tree Water, collected poems and photographs of the Rappahannock mind, body, spirit. Following his reading, we're going to have a Q&A discussion segment moderated by artist and curator Kori Price. You can register for these virtual events on our main website, McGuffeyArtCenter.com. Without further ado, I'm going to start by introducing our featured guest for the evening, Adrienne Oliver. Adrienne Oliver is a performer, public school educator, and single mother, and a Black woman in each of those realities. She curates and hosts the Cocoa Sprinkler Citrus Poem virtual reading series, and her films and writing have most recently appeared in the Virginia Film Festival, Spark and Echo, Cuarto del Sol, Dear Lois, Tribe de Mama, and Maximum Rock and Roll. Her work is an emerging voice in poetry and national cultural criticism. Interviewing Adrienne after she reads is Kori Price. Kori Price is a photographer, writer, and engineer based in Charlottesville, Virginia. Originally from Culpeper, Kori has been proud to call Central Virginia home for most of her life and is passionate about telling the stories of her community. She is an art organizer and is one of the founding members of the Charlottesville Black Arts Collective. I'm so excited to have Adrienne here today, and I'm going to pass the floor over to her to share a little bit about herself before she starts her readings.
Hello. I liked scrolling through and seeing faces, but it's better like this now that we're in a virtual circle. I really appreciate everyone being here. What a treat. Thank you, thank you. I don't feel compelled to say more about who I am, but I suppose that if there are wonderings about how I got here, those are questions I'm sure that Kori and I can explore later. Feel free to pop those into the chat. I think I'm just going to get into reading. Everything that I'm sharing today is from a forthcoming work. So it's a collection that I've been in creation and different chunks of it feel ready for sharing in the way that new houses do, where you're like, come over. And then once people come over and they sit in it, you're like, never mind, this chair doesn't live here. I imagine that's what it will be like to share and read these today, but they need that so I can figure out where the chairs really live. I appreciate you listening. All right, let's hit it. Notice. If one more white lady tells me to just be myself, I might just do it, and then they'll really be sorry. And this stoplight never changes, but I don't suppose the city is concerned much with traffic coming from the Mexican grocer, which is so like them. I'm rambling because I put the basil in the fridge again, and there's still no justice for a woman murdered while asleep in her bed. And next summer, Sweet Pea will be 7. And please don't tell, but I can't figure out which is worse. Here's where the poet says something about birds' feathers, but the trees behind us have been torn down for something. I can't remember what, though my mother sent me the article, which is so like her. You don't have to be good. Such a relief. As it turns out, that won't save a life, even a vegan one. Insists, I want to taste the honey. Look, I don't get enough credit for the poems I don't write. That gruesome playground injury and the ash from winter to summer, or the loose brick on the mall and this morning's new freckle, an oddity. Armpits to ancestors out on display, which is so like us. Meanwhile, these roses grow wild. And damn, I still believe in true love. Like, I just need to believe it, okay? Right here is an actual bird chirping at my window, begging me not to forget the way her toe cut wide open and the look in her eyes, even if the stain came off the comforter. I learned Nina on the school bus, twirling daydreams round expectations, littering pistachio seeds beneath the seat. Unloved guts snuck furiously into margins. Hieroglyphics outside the theater's lullaby of bleeding light. Origami, we Black girls, folding as swans. I wore less color.
Hey, Adrienne, somehow you've gotten popped on mute, so we might need you to hold on for just a second.
Hi. Yeah? Should I start from the beginning?
I think that would be wonderful.
Okay. Right after origami. Oh, weird. Oh, maybe did someone come in? Hello, welcome. Fair enough. I might just take it back. Notice. If one more white lady tells me to just be myself, I might just do it. And then they'll really be sorry. And this stoplight never changes, but I don't suppose the city is concerned much with traffic coming from the Mexican grocer, which is so like them. I'm rambling because I put the basil in the fridge again, and there's still no justice for a woman murdered while asleep in her bed. And next summer, Sweet Pea will be 7, and please don't tell, but I can't figure which is worse. Here's where the poet says something about birds' feathers. But the trees behind us have been torn down for something. I can't remember what, though my mother sent me the article, which is so like her. You don't have to be good. Such a relief, as it turns out, that won't save a life. Even a vegan one insists, I want to taste the honey. Look, I don't get enough credit for the poems I don't write. That gruesome playground injury and the ash from winter to summer, or the loose brick on the mall and this morning's new freckle, an oddity. Armpits to ancestors out on display, which is so like us. Meanwhile, these roses grow wild, and damn, I still believe in true love. Like, I just need to believe it, okay? Right here is an actual bird chirping at my window, begging me not to forget the way her toe cut wide open and the look in her eyes, even if the stain came off the comforter. Shit, I learned Nina on the school bus, twirling daydreams round expectations, littering pistachio seeds beneath the seat, unloved guts snuck furiously into margins, hieroglyphics outside the theater's lullaby of bleeding light. Origami, we Black girls, folding as swans. I wore less color then, convinced red would lie about me. Now I'm just waiting for the light to change, steady hunting for the green. I had another dream of you last night, and I'm making sweet things for dinner, which is so like me. Number 3. In September, there were earlier sunsets, and also you died. We took up a love affair with spaghetti squash, twirling tendrils of the farm's magistry about forks, stabbing at feelings on pooling butter-slick plates. Child of promise, splayed in pieces on a street whose name I could not pronounce because I never really committed to Spanish. Some days, then we arrived home to a blackbird flat dead and beady-eyed on the mat. Mothers aren't meant to mourn their babies. Any mother worth her weight knows that's the whole of it. Death is an anthology of small things like the cold porch or the distance between the moon and Vietnam or the exact shade of pink that spread blotchy across her weepy round face. Most weeks I stayed alive so my last draft wouldn't be my last draft. I asked Shame for tea just to talk. How you doing, sis? About the same. Imagine. Gave old girl the perfect opening and she just hung around the door asking after the baby. She's working hard to make herself useless in the end times. I tried a sharp red lipstick and we're thinking of giving up the cat. The elfling mimics nature documentaries and etches sturdy peas. And I allowed 2 sets of lips to kiss mine. Poet or a woman on earth. No good reason. The cashier in aisle 8 told me I have a very well organized cart and he should know. Noticing my delight, he continued, thousands of carts a week and this is exceptional work. So yes, I did cry real tears in the parking lot of Trader Joe's. And yes, it is that easy to move the heart of another. And yes, humans can be sweet for no good reason. So it stands to reason that yes, we can be instruments of mercy. I don't know what makes me safe enough to talk to or how narrowly I might escape the next parking lot. It's been 295 days or so, and so I suppose we just keep letting ourselves be noticed. On and on. Yes, that's probably it. for next time. Poems by Black poets when another beloved joins the ancestral plane, but not murdered this time, just sucked from my soul like a gasp in reverse. I begged the internet all morning, a very particular search. I craved royalty. The hurricane tickles my window panes and my child remains buried in gray. I saw God in you. That's the poem for next time. And another thing, I don't think I'll teach my daughter the number for emergencies. It's okay by me, she says 991, because she knows my mother's number by heart. If I'm hurt, call grandma instead. Don't let them kill me. Do you think we have time for one more? I love Brooke, who's like, yeah, honestly, definitely.
See me nodding.
Okay. White pepper and sweet pea. This evening, I have splayed and roasted a bird that you pulled Tuesday from the freezer, calling him a friend and offering thanks for his sacrifice. I pick the meat from bones, sucking at the fat, grease-covered fingers slipping against my wine glass and breaking news muted as smoke billows on the Capitol steps. There are nights we devour life. Nights we grow full of ancient animals. Nights we carry a nation's history to bed. Not just its skin, but its breed and feathers and gas and days and dust and shade. Perhaps I have had my fill of chickens.
I have another silent applause for you.
Appreciate it, Kori.
And I feel like so many folks are doing the same on their end, whether their videos are on or off. It's just so nice to have a poetry reading. Even if it's virtual, it's just nice to have one.
That's right.
So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure.
Thank you. And we've got some virtual claps in the chat. I meant for that to rhyme.
Yeah.
Got to get my poems on tonight. But wanted to just let everybody know in the audience that we are perfectly happy to answer some questions, and I can facilitate that for you. So go ahead and enter those in. But of course, I did prepare some of my own to kick us off here. So I think my first one will be, when I read your poetry, it just feels like it's meant to be heard. It's meant to be read aloud. And I always don't get that. I don't often get that feeling from other poets. So I'm wondering, is this a part of your style? How did you, and if it is, how are you continuing to develop your style?
I suppose that I came to wordsmithing from a place of performance. And so I was very used to sort of rolling language around and wanting to subvert punctuation, and I wanted to play with how it was written on the page to find how that person would speak it. And so yeah, so for a long time, what I was writing, even just as prose, I knew that I would deliver this to you. And that was how I wrote, as a sort of a delivery. Maybe it's preachy. And I don't know if I mind it, but I did know that I came to say a thing and deliver a thing, and this was a packaged piece. And so even very unfinished, unpolished work for me feels as if it must be spoken to actually figure out where the work is to be done. I am also informed by a cultural and historic legacy of oral storytelling and sharing. And so while I love and enjoy the written word, I recognize that that is not hierarchically superior, right? I intellectually recognize that. And also I fundamentally believe that like what is spoken to us, what is whispered to us, what is shared as sort of heard testimony around us, that gets internalized in a way that the written word just can't. Right. And so the performance of language is central to my work in that I hear it, and so then I write it down.
Okay.
And I suppose I hear it because I spoke it, and then I wrote it down. You asked how is it still developing in that time?
Right, or has it changed even from when you first started writing?
That's an interesting question, because I suppose I first started writing as a child, yeah? And I didn't have very much interest in sharing my work as a younger person. In fact, I really identified as being a performer. So I wanted to share the words of other people and to tell those stories. And ultimately that became disempowering, like being a cog in someone else's system. And I knew that I wanted to have ownership, and I found a great deal of sort of personal healing through telling my own stories, speaking my own words and then truths. Yeah. So I imagine it will always be developing. Yes.
Yeah, this is any creative's process, right? As we grow and we change, I would imagine our craft is going to grow and change.
Yeah.
Or turn into something totally new that we didn't see coming.
That's right.
So that absolutely makes sense. Something else like on that same vein that I wanted to ask is, your voice, you spoke about, you started with words and then you turn that into truth. And I think the voice in your poems speaks so much truth. So I'm curious, what inspires you and what do you draw from to be able to speak truths?
I'm really concerned in a preoccupation sense with legacy deeply. I say it because I see some faces who will be like, yeah, we know. We know you talk about it a lot. But I am, and I think that we are building that through, we are building that in the now. I think that there are some ways that we think like, this is what I want my legacy to be longer term. And I don't know if we're giving then the daily focus to it. And in a daily focus, that's as much where I put my body today, as what I served my family today, as what I spoke to my community today, as what art I created. Like all of that to me feels a piece of a legacy we're building. Mm-hmm. And I want stories told of me to speak to bravado and complexity and unwavering devotion, and an ethic of love. And I think that truth telling is buried in each of those things. I think it will be okay at any stage in my life to say, oh, but I want to say this, or I meant to do, or I've still got so much, right? I don't think truth telling is like, I said all there was to say. I think I'm in many ways, I suppose, actually, I'm less concerned with the ultimate truth as I am with mine. Yeah. And ensuring that in my time, I make my story heard and known, even if only for one girl to carry with her from here forward.
Amazing, amazing. So as you're developing your work, I don't know, I always find myself writing down quotes. I was doing a little bit of that today, just because I think you have this really wonderful way to just hit a resolution in a very clear and concise way. And I think that comes from careful choice of the words that you use and what you pick. Do they just come to you? Do you have a method? Do you make word lists? I know some poets will make word lists when they're trying to find the right thing. Or just otherwise, how do you find those really impactful words that you need to use?
You ever been in a fight with someone where like you stumble over the thing you want to say, and in that moment you're like, oh, I was really going to land that. I think that you can hear when a sentence is spoken aloud, or even when a phrase is spoken aloud, that you're like, that's not it yet. That's not it. It's just not, it's not landing.
Right.
It's not settling. Or conversely, like it's not hanging in the air like I want it to. It doesn't demand silence afterwards, or like a breath afterwards. And so sometimes it just does take like hearing words or phrases aloud and being like, nah, that's not it. Other times I know who I'm speaking to, so I know what words are right for them. And that can be another pathway to finding out like, oh, this is the thing that I meant to say. Very often though, it comes from reading a lot of words. And I can't say that I keep lists, but I keep folders and folders and dog-eared pages and underlined lines of like things I want to say aloud sometime, right? And knowing that that's there, I start to like manipulate a little bit. Indeed, the piece that I made for water was like, oh, how do I wish to stitch together ideas to create something in the current? Yeah, but you know, another pathway can be when you can, now look, not everyone visualizes the same way. So, right, you can say the word apple and some people have the most realistic picture of an apple in their head, and other people have the apple icon. And other people are like, you didn't give me enough detail. You said apple, like, how would I know what to create in my mind without more detail for this apple, right? And I know that from as a teacher. And so I can sometimes like to play with, did I give enough information to really set you there so that the words that follow can hit? Or am I holding back to force a little more work? But if it creates a picture, or if it makes my body do a thing, sometimes you know the word is right because like you can't get it out of yourself without moving it out of yourself, which is why I do think that speaking aloud, specifically poetry, is crucial, because that physicality is how you hear the rhythm. I think a lot of people actually would love poetry, but we hand it to them on a page. And I don't think that's how any music is meant. I mean, hand me sheet music and I'm like, I know these notes. I think this is an F, you know, but I can't hear it. And I can't see the sort of orchestration of it. And so sometimes that performance piece is what gives it. So if I have to like move a body to get it out, or move my body to get it out of me, then I'll be like, oh, all right, wait, something's happening here. And I can pay some more attention to that.
Yeah, I'm so happy you just did this analogy with sheet music to hearing it, because I think I've recently just gotten into poetry, I think in the last couple of years. And until then, my idea of poetry was Shakespeare. Yep. Which is wonderful. Iambic pentameter for life, right? It's great, but there's so much more out there, and it's almost, it's an art form. So you have to find what art suits you best. And there's so much in poetry, so many different styles. And when I heard it, that's when the light bulb went in. And I think you're absolutely right. it's meant to be listened to. It's meant to be read aloud. It should be off of the page and performed. And it's neat to hear that that's how, when you have almost like a reaction and you do move. I've noticed that with my own work. I will move when I'm like, ooh, that's the right thing.
Yeah.
Like I either sit up straight or I'm like, ooh, or I'm like, okay, you know, like
Exactly.
there's certain things you're like, okay, I'm good.
That's right.
Sometimes it's a rare moment, but
Right.
happens. So it's neat to hear sort of your process on choosing those things.
Yeah, Nikki Giovanni says that you have to, like, you are your first reader. And I think you can extend that beyond the reading of written work, and to really think that, like, you are your first witness. How do I know what's the truth to tell? Because, like, I'm telling me. I find resonance with me. Like, this opens portals for me. How do I know what tastes good? Because I ate it. How do I know what feels good on my body? Like, because I can point to, like, where it touched me and it felt good. I can, like, it's tangible. And I think that that is true it's a thing I like to strive for, especially as you do move your work into the world, that you got to know, like, I like this.
Right.
I like this. I see where the work can grow. I see where it can be revised. I see, like, where the dust is hanging on some sentences, and I'm like, did I do this? I mean, I see that, but if I can look at it in totality and say, I have respect for this, like, this is well with me, then that feels monumental.
That is so great. One question to follow up on that one. Are you ever at a loss for words?
Yes, routinely.
Cool.
Almost constantly, if I'm honest.
Cool.
I basically walk around being like, I have no idea. How would I know what to say about that? And I do believe that, like, a thing that often happens is that we sit down and demand that they come to us. And there is a responsibility in, I think, in any kind of recording, in whatever form that takes, to let the words arrive. I think they're always on their way. And to force a right now, I am philosophically and politically opposed to power wielding, that like robs a soulful thing of its own timeline and its own agency. And I think that words function like that. If they're mine, then they are of my soul, right? And so I just have to give them time to arrive. And I'm not in there's no urgency. They can take their time. And I want to work to make that safe. I want to work to make myself a vessel that is safe for my words to come to me. And so it's okay that sometimes I have nothing. And then some days it floods, right? Some days something just, like, cracks you open and you're like, oh, this is where they were. I did not know. But now I have lots to say. You're probably going to want to sit down. It might be sometime.
Right.
Yes, I'm frequently at a loss for words. But I will also say, Kori, that, like, writing solidifies a thing. Like, it crystallizes ideas for me. I can sometimes be in moments where I'm like, I have no idea. I don't know. I don't have words for this. I have no idea what I want to say about a thing. And then I read one word, or I go back to something, or I just do sit down and stop working so hard. And you breathe and it comes out. It comes to you. And putting it to the page helps me know, like, oh, I wasn't talking about blue. I was talking about cerulean.
It's refreshing to hear you say that it's okay to be at a loss for words. And it's it's part of it. The word should arrive, which I wrote down, by the way. One of those things that I need to hear today. But they should arrive, and we should allow moments to arrive as well.
I mean, I think that there's an ebb and flow in all things.
Yeah.
That we produce doesn't make us like agents of productivity all of the time. Because I can create a tangible thing doesn't mean I am now on demand to be doing that at any moment. It was actually like a real frustration I found in being a performer, is people would be like, oh, you act something. My go-to response was always, it's very nice to meet you. Mostly just because I was like, I don't understand how I am on the spot.
Right.
To do that work, that's not how it comes. And I think that, I mean, like, whatever, but part of that is because we live in a society that commodifies our gifts and talents and humanity. So we think we can just say, like, give me.
Yeah.
You do a thing, give me that labor. And that's not actually how I believe, especially artistic labor or human labor, ought to flow. So
I am with you on that. And I love it when you bring that up in your work too, because I'm usually silently like, yes, at my desk for work. So, so Megan's got a question in here, so I'll read it to you. So saying that you mentioned something about words landing for people, and it made me wonder about who you hope your audience is. Is your poetry for yourself, everyone, anyone in particular? And does your work change at all when it's consumed by others?
Yeah, I write for a girl named Pearl, almost exclusively. I don't know that there's anything I've ever written that I can point to and be like, this isn't for her. And I recognize that it may not all be for her right now, but I intend it to be for her when it's right for her, whenever that moment is. I want anything that I make and create to be for her. That's, yeah. I see the work of mothering as being, yes, the work of legacy building, but also the work of community building, and also the work of reciprocity with the land and with the people around me, right? And so I write for her, and I recognize that she is in me as much as she is of me, and she is in others as much as she is in front of me, but that's who I write for. And so, yes, it changes when it is consumed sometimes, right? Because when something does land with someone and feels personal, I would never wish to take that experience from them. That never. And actually, on a deeper level, I do believe that if it landed, then you are Pearl too, right? Like you're someone's girl. And so, yeah, it can be for you. And I think that then the giving, when you put it out, yes, it changes when it's consumed by other people. But I think when I make the decision that this is now available to others, it's because I'm saying, I now am ready for you to have a piece of it. And I recognize that this moves beyond me now. And I don't wish to own what comes to and through me. I wish to be of service. And this is one way. Yeah. So, yeah. Hey, thanks.
Beautiful. So we've got probably time for one or two more questions. I have one more that I want to ask, but putting that out there for the audience. If you've got just one question that you're itching to ask, now is your time to type that in. For slow typers, I will ask one more question. So as you explore the themes of motherhood and the Black experience, are there ever times where you feel like you need to explore them, or you want to explore them?
I don't know in this present moment what the distinction might be. My desire to know myself, my world, and my place in it is inextricable from a demand that I not just know, but reclaim and carve like a moat around me. And in the teaching to a child of how to navigate a Black experience, how to navigate a Black woman's experience, how to navigate distinction between a Black woman's experience and a brown girl's experience, how to massage the nuance of color, how to, like, what her generation versus what my generation, right? Like all of that in teaching to a child, like the stories of our becoming. You reteach or learn for the first time the stories of your becoming. And so I don't know entirely how to separate my need or want. And because of that really messy, not very thin, messy line, actually, kind of a thick, just altogether messy, marker shaped line, I choose a lot of gratitude and joy. It's a real honor to be able to take a breath and pass it on. I think it's a right. I work to demand it. But even in my wildest imaginations, it's still of what a world could be, about what day could be, what a life could be, it's still an honor. Even in the best of circumstances, there's no way to look at a day and not say, oh, one more for me? So yeah.
I mean, you shrug, but it's that what you just said was, I'm at a loss for words.
Sometimes it be like that, you know?
I just made some weird noises that I'm like, I got nothing. But it's important to hear that whatever your life is, whatever your circumstancing is, that's a blessing.
Yeah.
Every day is a blessing. And to be fearless in approaching it that way and thankful as you approach it that way is just, I think, a beautiful thought to be left with for today and beyond, I think. So I didn't see any more questions come in. So I think this would be a great moment to segue into the next part and enjoy your piece that you created for the show.
Thank you all for being here, truly. I think sometimes the thing about words is that you don't know what you want to say until you start saying things.
Yeah.
And I collected pieces and phrases and words that I had heard said that were hanging in the air around me. And I knew that they were, they seemed like historical record to me. And I wanted to truly weave them in all senses of the word into a current. And so I made this piece. I think the way to enjoy it is to turn off your camera. I might even go so far as to asking you for this in particular to go to your video settings at the bottom on your menu where your start and stop camera exists. There's a little kind of up caret icon. When you click on that, you'll see video settings. And as you scroll through that, you'll see hide non-video participants. And then you can X out that box. Once you have done or have not done that, when your camera goes off, what we should see here is just a black screen. And it's in that space that I would love to hear the piece Currents that I created for the McGuffey exhibit, Water, the Agony and Ecstasy of the Black Experience. Thank you. I'm going to turn off mine as well.
Beloved, the river empties into the gulf that flows into the sea, all of them carrying yesterday. Do not get carried away. These words, they are stones in the water. Lord, 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 Lord. It is not flooding. It is remembering. Remembering where it used to be. When the sea turns back, it will leave my shape behind. I am beneath the water. I am beneath the water. Pretend I wrote this at your grave. Pretend the grave is marked. Pretend we know where it is. Here, on this bridge, between starshine and clay. Oh, how we entertain the angels. Every water is the same water coming around. For those who live at the shoreline, the past is always flowing. Wait. Wait. What are we? Wait, where are the stars? How much history is enough history? How do we come to be here in the night? All water has a perfect memory and is forever trying to get back to where it was. To get back. Get back. To get back to where it was. How much does it cost to hold your breath underwater? A cavalcade of ghost ships washed their hands of all they carried. How many I ams to be a real human girl? Which turn of phrase evidences a righteous heart? If I know of Ovid, may I keep my children? We do not know the history of this nation in ourselves. We did leave a trail of kin to guide us home. found God in myself the way I learned to swim, dropped into the inevitable. I am not crossing to cross back. I am trying to surface. My powerful breaststroke, a declaration of war. I am here to eat up all the ocean you thought was yours. I love the way colored girls always get the message. Your name is the boat that brought you. I am the stream, barnacled and ruined. I have left Earth, and I am touching everything you cannot steal or sell or cast overboard or hang or beat or drown or own or redline or shackle or silence, or cheat, or choke, or cover up, or jail, or shoot, or jail, or shoot, or jail, or shoot, or ruin. The water was one thing. This, if only this one, is ours. I remember. I remember. And so it is with you.